Good morning. Another day. Episode 9. Cold morning. Pleasure to be with you. Glad to have you. Today I wanted to talk about how do you deal with your trauma, right? So we all have experiences that are traumatic to us, and I'm wondering, how do you deal with your trauma? What are your thoughts on like therapy? Are you for or opposed to going to a therapist and dealing with some of the things that you struggle to overcome, or even it may be a case that you so I know for me, growing up as a guy, black guy, in communities where I'm told that I am always supposed to be strong, where I never supposed to show no weakness. And so that's the community that I grow up in. And then I get to prison, where that's reinforced, but even in a more aggressive, way. Do y'all hear gangster? So, good morning again. This is Lamont Carey. I guess he's a little upset because I didn't introduce him, but my co-host is with me. Gangster. He don't feel he didn't get the proper introduction. So, my question this morning: are you for or against therapy? Because I know that we go through traumas and we may sometimes find ourselves unable to move past what it is that we have experienced. And as I was saying, so I grew up in communities where a man, whether if you're 2 years old, you might hear your parents or your neighbors say, "Little boys don't cry. You my little big man. Be a big boy. Don't cry. Ain't you a big boy?" And so we're taught as young boys that part of being a man is not showing any emotions. And so we start to suppress because we get ridiculed for showing tears. You hear stuff like, "Stop whining, stop this." And so a lot of young boys are taught that what they're feeling, they have to push down. And so then we end up in prison, where that is reinforced. So now we have a different barrier that or layer of what the definition of a man is. And it's still, a man isn't supposed to show weakness. A man supposed to deal with all of his situations with extreme violence, right? A man don't talk. A man don't do this. A man don't do that. And all of these definitions of what a man is. And most boys, even little boys, want to be a man one day. And all men want to be considered and perceived as men. And so sometimes we grow up in these communities or get caught up in these sub-societies like prison, where the negative perspective of what a man is spread and reinforced, and consequences. And so as a man, my clear definition on what a man is wasn't always clearly defined. And so I'm wondering, how do you deal with your traumatic experiences? How do you help yourself to get removed from those things that you've experienced that keep you trapped, that keep you unable to truly be you or find out who you are because of all of these things that society places on you? So I want to know, is therapy, are you for or against? Talk to me. Gangsta, are you for therapy, gangster, or are you against therapy? So, I guess I can kick it off until you join me. And so I started going to therapy probably like 14 months ago, right? And the weird thing about it, so I didn't see prison as like no real traumatic. I mean, it was a traumatic experience, but it wasn't no thing that was like I wake up with being in prison is a nightmare for me. But I was feeling blocked in different areas of my life. Like, I didn't know, or I didn't feel like I don't always feel like I'm accomplishing the things that I set out to accomplish. And I know a lot of people, I ain't gonna say a lot of people, some people see me as living a dream or successful. But if I don't recognize that I'm being successful, and I'm basing it off of several things, how am I helping somebody improve their life, and of course the monetary value, what am I worth kind of stuff. And so I went to see the therapist to help me figure out how to remove or begin the process of removing some of the barriers that I felt that I was experiencing, and to help me to become more emotional, more physically showing and verbally showing my emotions, because I done lived such a suppressed life because of what I was defined what a man is, and how a man respond, and how a man think. And so I knew I was being limited, and I based that off of my inability to would not show love, but to verbally say certain things. Like, I'm not one of them dudes where I am. I wasn't one of those guys that could easily say, I love you. And that, all of that connects back to how I was brought up, which I guess if you really think about it, I would have probably figured that out. But I felt stuck. I felt stuck on being able to enjoy the successes that I do have. And that comes from upbringing as well, right? Because we are told that we are not supposed to brag, that we are not supposed to, we're supposed to be humble. We're supposed to just take our successes and swallow them like they never even happened. But so I felt like, am I progressing? And so in all of this, I figured out, it was some kind of blockage because I wasn't enjoying life like to the fullest. So my question to you all, how do you deal with your trauma or traumatic experiences? Do you, and are you for or against therapy? Because I know when I first decided to go, that was the hardest thing in the world for me to do, because when I was brought up, it was like you crazy if you seeing the therapist, right? And I guess I reached a point where I had to choose me. And in choosing me, meaning, how do I get me better? I'm out here trying to help other people make these breakthroughs in their own life, but I feel stuck or felt stuck in my own. And so I had to stop being a hypocrite, right? And I had to work on me, always trying to work on me, but this was more of a deeper dive. So, I know this is our first day on this platform, and I hope everybody got the message and came over to join me. So again, I appreciate you for joining in every morning with me on Walk and Talk with Lamont Carey. You know, sometimes my co-host, Gangster. And so with this show, my goal is always to like engage you on a personal level. Like, how do we come together and heal each other, help each other to be successful? And I don't have all the answers, but what I have become is more aware of myself. And sometimes you don't always like what you find out about yourself, and so I try to make it my business to help me just as much as I help other people move on to the journey of their life. For example, so my book, Dead Before 18, Saving Our Boys from the Streets, and it talks about like how to start dealing with your anger, how to start controlling your anger, some exercises that you can do when you feel anger coming on, and how to release it in a positive way. And so, because I know as a young guy, I didn't feel that there was an outlet for me to express myself, and only through violence. But violence only create a harsher reality for me and for them, and it has a traumatic effect on the person that the violence is, that receives your violence. And so that's why I wanted to talk about today, how do you deal with your trauma, and is therapy a good thing, a bad thing, when you working to become a better you, when you aiming to love yourself more? How do you make that work? Is therapy something that you open to? So my experience so far has been positive, and I had stopped going for like a month, right? Because I was like, all right, I don't need this no more. I could do this, because it felt like the stuff that was being told was stuff that I already should have known, but I didn't. And then once I realized that it was actually stuff that was helping me become more beneficial to myself, I started going back. So like, I think I told y'all about the article that I read on personal limitations, and on my list of personal limitations, I wrote the therapist messed me up, got me too emotional, right? And so I went back to the therapist and told the therapist that she had to close me up. So what is weird, right? It was easy to, I guess I thought I should have known what the therapist is gonna do, because how smooth and good she is at her work. She'll just ask like what seem to be simple ass questions, and it would like open up this huge outpour of me, like, I ain't never think about that. Or I'll come off with some big old story that connects to what it is that she was talking about. And so one of the biggest things that I think I've learned so far, even though when I was in prison that I was learning and I was growing intellectually, not physically, because I wasn't doing no weightlifting, none of that. I wasn't even doing no walking. I felt that I was growing and I was in tune. I'm reading the newspaper, I'm watching the news. But she said that one of the things that I may have, that I probably experienced in prison is that I didn't have the normal track of living, right? So, because I spent my younger years or young adulthood in prison, I didn't have the normal progression as individuals, young boys that was out in the streets, right? I didn't have like my first real relationship. And so the heartache I felt from when the greatest relationship that I've ever had so far in my life had ended, I was toe up from the flow up. And she was like, what you're experiencing now is what you would have experienced maybe as a 19-year-old, as a 23-year-old, but now you're experiencing it this late on in life. So you just have been like I think she was meaning like emotionally delayed, so I wasn't on track. And I thought that was crazy. But when I look at it in the way that she said it, I felt like, all right, maybe she got a point here, but still closed my ass up. And she was like, Lamont, why would you want to stop being emotional? And I'm like, because that ain't who I am. And then she said, the reason that you came here is to help yourself to remove some of them barriers, right? So my question to you is, how do you deal with your trauma? Is therapy a good thing? Is therapy a bad thing? What's your thoughts on it? How do you move forward? How do you deal with your trauma? Give me some tips, because I'm always looking to improve myself. So talk to me. And today, we don't even have a whole lot of time left, but I appreciate you. So I'm just wondering, is the change of this platform is what's throwing us off? So the other thing about the therapy thing is that some of the stuff that we discuss, I realized that's in my book, the techniques that's in my book are more in line with what you would have gotten from a therapist. Ain't that crazy? Like the tools that I get provided to deal with anger, impulsive behavior, all of those things that's in my book to help young people and adults, really. She read the book because I guess she said she was trying to understand my train of thought and all this other stuff. And she was like, I was on point. Who knew that I could have been on the other side of the table working with her? So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap up for now, but I'll be back tomorrow. And so if you're checking this video out, do me a favor, comment, share, tell somebody something about it. Give me some topics that you want to talk about. And you can join us right here, mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Unless I got something else to do. So again, comment, share, enjoy, and let's work together to improve each other and ourselves. And I'm your host. I'm Lamont Carey. Join me right here on Facebook Live at Mr. Lamont Carey. So until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, continue to be the best you can be. Continue to work on yourself. I appreciate you. Later.